I've seen a million baseball games in my life, and I never saw what happened tonight.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, but the best way to get a hold of us is right here on the YouTube page, and use that hashtag EverydaySully. Helps us find your comments. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for your $20 off of that first purchase. And let's go right to the trivia question that we did. What Mariners pitcher was credited with their only win in the 2001 ALCS, the last time they won an ALCS game before the other night? We got some guesses. Bruce Scotland 8538 said Chris Bosio, who was a pitcher for the 95 Mariners, and he may have been on, I can't remember, not the right answer. Fungo 45, Paul Abbott, not a bad guess. Incorrect, however. Say it with your chest says, I was going to say Johnson, but he was gone by then. Should be Moyer. It was Jamie Moyer. Jamie Moyer won Game 3 of the 2001 ALCS at Yankee Stadium. And that was the last time before the other night that the Mariners had won an ALCS game. We will get to the Mariners Blue Jays game in section 2 today, but whoa. That's was quite a game. Quite a game played between LA and Milwaukee. Let's try to unpack it. First of all, Kevin Cash, were you watching? You noticed that Blake Snell was throwing a masterpiece. Don't take him out. In fact, maybe they shouldn't have taken him out when they did. But he threw 8 innings and faced the minimum. He allowed one dang hit. He allowed one hit the whole time, and they wound up getting, it was Durbin got the hit in I don't know, the 4th or 5th inning, whatever it was, and he was picked off. I guess was it officially called a pickoff or a stolen base? I don't remember. Neither do you. But he pitched out of the stretch for like 3 or 4 pitches the entire game. It was an absolute masterpiece, and there was a sort of weird irony that he was doing that for the Dodgers when it was him being lifted in the World Series against the Dodgers in 2020. That really is one of the most mind-boggling, and still is one of the most mind-bogglingly bad managerial decision in the history of the postseason baseball, certainly in this century. Snell was incredible, and did he throw 100 pitches? He threw 103 pitches, and they relieved him with Sasaki. Now, I get it. I'm not going to scream bloody murder. He gave you 8 brilliant innings, and Sasaki has been terrific. And Sasaki was off. He didn't have his best stuff. He walked 2 batters and let up a booming double. And then Dave Roberts brought in Trinan. And I have to say, I have been crapping all over Trinan. For good measure, he had a terrible season. And he's not been effective in the postseason. And in he came. And when he walked Contreras to load the bases, where a base hit would have won the game for Milwaukee, I just was sitting to myself, here we go. I mean, what are we even doing here? Why is he in the game? What is happening? And Terang got out of the way of a pitch. And I know it's really, really easy to be sitting on my couch in Pasadena, California, saying, let the ball hit you. Because if the ball hit him, the game would have been tied. But it's easy for me to say that because I'm not the one having a hard sphere being thrown at me. And Terang wound up swinging at and so if he had gotten hit by that pitch, this whole podcast would have been about trashing Blake Trinan, and he wound up swinging. It was a ball. The pitch he struck out on was a ball. But you know what? You got to give a man credit where credit is due. He didn't pitch great. He walked a batter, nearly cost him the game, but he didn't. And Trinan got the save. And with that, the Dodgers took game one. Even with the save today, Trinan's postseason ERA is over 6. That's not good. But they got, they got by. And Snell has been absolutely brilliant this postseason. The play that blew my mind, that absolutely blew my mind, and it is listed very casually as a double play. That was Frelick Ortiz to William Contreras. That deep fly ball that at first looked like Frelick made a brilliant catch. And then you saw, no, it actually bounced into his glove, but nobody knew what the hell was going on. I thought it was a bases clearing double. And instead, it was a force out at home and an unassisted double play, or the second out was unassisted because Contreras ran up there because everyone ran back thinking it was a fly ball. Now, this was a rare instance. I wasn't walking my dog and I'm very glad I wasn't, because if I was trying to untangle that plate of spaghetti, if someone was just was just listening to it on the radio, I would have reenacted the movie Scanners. My head would have exploded. How about that for an up-to-date movie reference? But it was so surreal. It was an absolutely for most of the game, it was an incredibly well-pitched, well-played game until Uribe allowed a run in the 9th. There was only one run scored in the entire game, and that was a home run by Freddie Freeman. No shame in that off of Patrick Priester, who pitched very badly in the game against Chicago. They did an opener situation with Ashby. Priester did great. I mean, he wasn't as dominant as Snell, but he gave him 4 strong innings. And it was 2-0 going into the 9th. And boy, oh boy, that one extra run was really useful for them. But that play is absolutely surreal. And that plus the strange bottom of the 9th and watching the brilliance of Snell throughout this entire game, you couldn't ask for a better performance. You couldn't ask for a better performance. It was Greg Maddux or Pedro Martinez. And getting 8 innings out of them, you know what? I think you did fine. I think probably said, hey, thank you for the 8. We'll hand it to Sasaki. And with that, the Dodgers have home field advantage now over the Brewers. The Brewers played a good, solid game. They didn't make errors. They didn't do anything, there was no dumb play that was made. It's just Blake Snell dominated the game. And sometimes you got to tip your hat to that. And they were one slightly moved knee away from having the game be tied. Well, now it's all on the shoulders of Peralta, who's going up against Yamamoto tomorrow afternoon here in LA, tomorrow evening in Milwaukee. And this is a huge game. The Brewers cannot afford to go to LA 2-0 or down 2-0. They got the pitcher they want to do it. And you know what? You sometimes just have to say the other team had a masterpiece thrown at them. And sometimes you got to shake your head. But if today was any indication of what kind of series we're going to have, it's at least going to be memorable and a touch surreal. Hey, guess what I'm doing this week? No, seriously, guess. I'm going to one more baseball game this week. That's right. I'm going to be going to Game 4 of the NLCS. Boy, you never experience anything unless you're at a baseball playoff game live. It's incredible. But getting tickets, that's a hard part. You got login screens, surprise fees. Do you know what? Sometimes buying the ticket takes the fun out of it. But I got my tickets through Game Time. That's the app that gives you the advantage. It gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast. It's easy, and it's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and by the best price. All fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay. And it makes it super simple. I could see my seat at Dodger Stadium exactly where I'm going to sit, so there's no surprises. And speaking of no surprises, as I mentioned, you have the all fees included, no surprises going on there. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's less stressful. And if you use the Game Time picks, you have the zone deals, and you can find your section, and they get you the best tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Download Game Time today. Now, I've been criticized for some people for talking about the Yankees too much. I'm going to bring up one tiny thing about the Yankees regarding the Mariners Blue Jays series. And one thing I was thinking was, we are going to find out if Savage is really an ace pitcher who has blossomed on the scene, or the thing that people have been saying about the Yankees is real, that if you put a pitcher they've never seen on the mound, they don't know what to do. Today, it looked like the latter. I'm sure the Yankees were watching this game going like, wait a minute, how are they getting hits off this guy? And where are all the Blue Jays hits? Yeah. Full disclosure, the game started around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was still at work. I was still teaching. And when it got to be around 2:15, there was a break. And my buddy D is one of my students. It's not his real name, but I'm just going to call him D. He's on the spectrum, as most of the students I have are. And he's a huge Dodger fan and a huge baseball fan. And a lot of times I'll put the game on, like if there's a game on during lunch, D and I will watch it in the classroom. It'll be on the screen. It'll be all the other kids will be in the class, but we'll have it on. And I have my baseball buddy with me. And so I said to him, I said, the bell rang where it was about a few minutes between classes. And I said, hey, D, let's check the score of the Mariners Blue Jays game. Savage is pitching. And we turned it on. And you have to understand, my buddy is on the spectrum, and sometimes large emotional moments are not his forte. And his eyes widened when he saw the Mariners scored 3 runs in the first. He said, wow. That's how unexpected it was. And of course, I had no idea how they scored the 3 runs. Now, I quickly looked up and I saw Julio Rodriguez wound up hitting a 3-run home run in the first inning. Now, give the Blue Jays credit and Lucas credit. They bounced right back, and it was tied 3-3 after 2. And I thought to myself, oh, it's going to be one of these kind of games, one of these back and forth games. And the answer to that was no. It was not one of those kind of games. And I'll tell you someone, Eduard Bazardo deserves a hell of a lot of credit for, first of all, stopping the bleeding, getting 2 key shutout innings out of the bullpen after he pitched brilliantly in that final game against Detroit. And then the big moment happened. Yes, you had the home run by Julio Rodriguez in the first inning, but it was tied at 3, and Polanco, in the middle of it again, winds up hitting a home run to center field, a 3-run home run, made it 6-3 Seattle. And at that moment, you could just feel all the air coming out of the Rogers Center. And after that, it was all Mariners. Crawford, the next inning made it 7-3, and then Naylor hit the home run, so it was 9-3. Crawford drove in the last run, so it was 10-3. I think that was on a sac fly, but it was 10-3. The glorious bullpen for Toronto was smashed. The best performance they got was actually out of Bassett, who was activated and pitched well. Maybe they should have started him. I don't know. But, Savage only pitched 4 innings. He let up 4 hits, let up 3 walks, and gave up 5 runs. And then the parade of relievers, Varland, Flaherty, Fisher, all let up runs. It got out of hand. And the Mariners They didn't get a great pitching performance out of Gilbert, who may have been gassed. I mean, he pitched great against Detroit, but he hasn't a lot of days off. But Bizzardo got 2 shutout innings. Vargas got 2 shutout innings. Hancock got 2 shutout innings, and they didn't have to, go to, their main, their main guys. They have to go to Munoz at all. Munoz is going to have 2 days of rest before going to game 3, which is going to be on Wednesday. Wednesday, Kirby is pitching. And Kirby did okay. And their bullpen is going to be rested and ready. And Bieber, you don't know what the hell you're going to get out of Bieber. And here's an interesting concept. Look, the Blue Jays could turn the script. It's just going to take one win. And we saw in the Yankees series that they can win without their best players. They can win with a bullpen game. They're going to Seattle, down 2 bagel. And I want you all to just consider this for a moment. At this moment, with the Mariners winning the first 2 games of the League Championship Series, they are now officially as close to the World Series as they've ever been in the franchise history. They got to Game 6 of the ALCS in 1995. They got to Game 6 with Randy Johnson on the mound. They got to Game 6 of the ALCS in 2000. The only other time they made it to the ALCS was 2001. They didn't make it. They didn't win 2 games in that series. They only won 1. Jamie Moyer got the victory. Maybe you remember. And so they've never been closer than Game 6 of the ALCS. They've never played a Game 7. If all goes wrong in the rest of the ALCS, they will have reached Game 6 because they've won 2 games. And so they are now tied for as close as they've ever been to the pennant. If they can go to Seattle, their home, and win a game, they will officially be closer to the World Series than they've ever been in their history. And if they happen to win 2 at home, then the franchise that had Dick Williams once as a manager, that had Ken Griffey Jr.'s prime, most of A-Rod's prime, most of Randy Johnson's prime, Ichiro Suzuki's prime, Edgar Martinez's prime, the entire career of Felix Hernandez, all of these wonderful players who never got to play in the World Series as a member of the Mariners. That's how close they are. Now, the Blue Jays could still turn it around. We've seen them win big games. We've seen them come up big all throughout this year, especially starting in mid-June where they caught fire and they played very, very well. Thank you very much. There's a reason why they have home field advantage in the American League Championship Series. There's a reason why they have the best record in the American League. But they're behind it right now. The Game 3 is not must win, but it's as close to must win as you want to get. And we're going to see what they're made out of. And as for the Mariners, they can look to their fan base and say, well, this is as close as we've ever gotten. Now, let's just get one step closer. Hey, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 to get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the apps. You know what? FanDuel adapts to however you like to bet on the games. You like to build parlays. You want to try the player props. Some people like to follow the live lines during the games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding in on the action. Whether you're a casual fan like I am or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, there was an interesting piece of news that I found to be somewhat unexpected. But Mike Shildt stepped down as the manager of the San Diego Padres. Mike Shildt, who won the Manager of the Year in 2019, when he helped turn the Cardinals' fates around and had the Cardinals go on a wild September that had them come from way back to being in the wild card game where they wound up winning 90 games. And they damn nearly beat the Dodgers. And for reasons still unknown to me, the Cardinals got rid of him. And then he was picked up by San Diego and won 93 games in his first year and damn nearly beat the Dodgers. And then won 90 games again this year and making the playoffs. His last 4 full seasons, not including the COVID year, the last 4 full seasons, 2019, 2021, 2024, and 2025, his teams won 91 games, 90 games, 93 games, 90 games. So averaging just over 90 games over those 4 years. Each one of those years, including the COVID years, his team was a playoff team. And he took over in 2024 after Bob Melvin left the squad after the 2023 season. He took over, got them to the division series, and then this year they lost the division series, or they lost the wild card series to the Chicago Cubs. And he stepped down. Now, Mike Shildt is 57. I'm 53. I didn't think 57 was that old. I hope it's not. I mean, I know, I'm probably in the back nine right now. I don't think I'm making it to 106, but I was surprised. I wonder if there's something going on behind the scenes, or maybe he's made a nice big pile of money and said, "Hey, I don't know if I necessarily want to do this anymore." I don't know. I'm not Mike Shildt. I want to end that rumor right now, but it's interesting right now because the Padres now have a job opening, and they are a team that is a playoff team coming off a 90-some-odd win team, has a bunch of stars on the team, and the fan base is crazy for them. And they're kind of in the position that Seattle, Toronto, and Milwaukee are all in right now, saying we're just dying to win a title. And at least one of those 3 teams that I mentioned are going to be playing in the World Series this year. The Giants also have a managerial opening. Now, Bruce Bochy is available. Will Bruce Bochy return to the Giants? I still think what the Giants should do with Buster Posey there is get a little bit of a sense of we're getting the gang back together, and have Bruce Bochy be the vice president of Beans and Franks and Beans or whatever, and hire his lieutenant Hensley Mullins to be the manager of the team. But I digress. Padres, the Angels have an opening. It sounds like with Artie Moreno, as weird as he is and obsessed with the 2011 World Series as he is, I have a feeling Albert Pujols is going to be the manager of that team. But you also have the Minnesota Twins. You also have the Atlanta Braves, another team that has a ton of talent. You also have the Orioles, Nationals, and Rockies, who aren't officially looking for a manager, but they all had interim managers, and none of those teams have removed the interim label from them. So think about all the teams that I just rattled off. Padres, Giants, and Braves all realistically could be playoff teams next year. There's a ton of young talent on Baltimore who are just a 100-win team just a couple of years ago. Maybe a new manager can help turn things around. Now the Twins and the Rocks, the Twins and the Nationals have traded away a lot of their key players. The Angels are a mess, and the Rockies are far from contending. But that is a lot of managerial openings, and some are for teams that could very well be contenders next year. I guarantee you Buck Showalter's name is going to come up. He seems to be a Johnny Appleseed of making teams better, but not actually playing in the World Series. I still think it's bizarre that Joe Maddon, who just a few years ago looked like he should be rehearsing his Hall of Fame speech, has a couple of disappointing years in Anaheim, and now he's not a manager anymore. You would think some of these teams that have real intentions of saying, hey, let's get someone in here who's been there and done that. Now, he's never going to go, would consider Joe Maddon. He's never going to go back to the Angels. But the Padres, I think, would be a real interesting place for him to land. Padres also think would be an interesting place for Buck Showalter to land. but I digress. You've got to tell me Hensley Mullins is going to be signed by somebody, for goodness sakes. What does the man have to do? And as I said the other day, I mean, Skip Schumacher was picked up by the Texas Rangers, but there's a whole plethora of managers who have won Manager of the Year, including Brandon Hyde, including Rocco Baldelli and Buck Showalter, who are just available. You can just hire them. Don Mattingly, you could hire them. They're all there. They're all there to be hired. And we shall see. But the Padres suddenly become a very interesting team if you are a manager who wants to be the manager to put a team over the top. And by that, I mean take them to that higher place, not have them arm wrestle with Sylvester Stallone. Bless you if you get that reference. But here we go. We'll see how many more managerial spots come open and how many more times Hensley Mullins can be overlooked. But one thing you should not overlook is my appreciation for you making Locked On MLB your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, until a World Series champ is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on the YouTubes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Let's go through the trivia question, shall we? Which expansion franchises won the World Series in their first postseason berth? The Blue Jays' first postseason berth was 1985, where they lost a heartbreaking series, ALCS, to Kansas City. The Mariners' first postseason berth was the Blue Jays was 1985. The Mariners was 1995, where they got to Game 6 of the ALCS against the Cleveland Indians after beating the Yankees in a thrilling, one of the absolutely greatest division series ever played. And the other expansion team currently in there is the Milwaukee Brewers, who started as the Seattle Pilots. Their first time making the postseason was in 1981 during the split season, where they lost the divisional series to the New York Yankees. But there have been instances of a team's first ever postseason berth after expansion. I'm not talking about 1901 or anything. I'm talking when expansion began in 1961. Which ones won the World Series in their first postseason berth? Put your answers right down here on the YouTube comment section. Talking about a bizarre play and a strange ninth inning, but the champs taking a 1-0 lead and the Mariners creeping closer to a World Series, and they're as close as they've ever been in franchise history. And another big managerial opening, this one in San Diego. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.